Are you sick of how hard it is to play in tune? If you're like me, you might feel frustrated by how much of your practice time is devoted to working on intonation, instead of spending that time on much more enjoyable aspects of violin playing, like musicality or expression. The concept we're discussing today doesn't just make it possible to play in tune, it actually makes it easy to play in tune. As you master it over time, good intonation will start to feel simple and natural. That means less time drilling and more time making music. The concept we're talking about is hand frame. By the end of this video, you'll know what hand frame is, what makes a good hand frame, and how you can start developing yours. Most importantly, I'll share 2 exercises that will help you to find the perfect hand frame for your unique body, which will be slightly different from anybody else's. So what is hand frame? Hand frame is getting your hand into a position where you can access all of your fingers easily without extra motion. Ideally, your fingers hover over the strings so that all that is required to play in tune is a simple lifting and dropping of the fingers. With a well set up hand frame, playing fast notes should feel easy and automatic. A bad hand frame would look something like this. As I move between fingers, there's all sorts of extra motion happening in the elbow, wrist, and thumb. In particular, I have to reach much further around the instrument in order to access the 4th finger. Not only is all of this extra movement strenuous, but more importantly, it introduces a huge amount of variation into the shape of the hand, which is a nightmare for intonation. Every time I come around the instrument and change the shape of my hand, the way my fingers fall changes, and the intonation changes with it. When we do this, instead of learning how to play in tune in one position, we end up trying to train ourselves to play in tune in a whole collection of slightly different positions. And that honestly doesn't work. What we want instead is a consistent hand shape where all the fingers are easily accessible in tune. We want to train our intonation in essentially one position that stays consistent. So what makes a good hand frame? The most important key to a successful hand frame is that it favors the 4th finger. The mistake most players make, especially early on, is setting up their hand based on what feels comfortable for the 1st finger. When we do this, the hand tends to sit too close to the scroll and becomes too open. Then when it's time to use the 4th finger, a lot of extra movement and stretching is required. Instead, we should set up our hand frame based on what's comfortable for the 4th finger and then reach back for the 1st finger. It's very difficult to extend the 4th finger, but we actually have a huge capacity to reach back with the 1st finger. In fact, I can even have my 4th finger in 3rd position and still reach back to 1st position with relative ease. So when we favor the 4th finger and allow a slight reach back with the other fingers, it becomes possible to access all 4 fingers with ease using a simple lifting and dropping motion. Instead of a bad hand frame. Once you've found this ideal position, I want you to imagine that there's a turtle shell around your hand. As your fingers lift and drop, the overall shape of the hand stays the same. You don't want to let go of the elbow rotation because doing so would break the turtle shell, and then when you need the 4th finger again, you'd have to reset your hand frame. A helpful check is to think about always having your 4th finger hovering over the string, ready to play. Now I do want to be clear, this is not necessarily the most comfortable position at first. It often feels easier to keep the hand farther back with less elbow rotation. However, this position is far more useful and ends up being much easier in the long run. We're sacrificing a little bit of short-term comfort in exchange for long-term consistency and accuracy. Take a look at the hand frame of some of the world's greatest violinists here. Even in extremely difficult passages, their hand frames look remarkably simple. And that's not by accident. Now, even though we want to maintain this turtle shell shape, it's important that we stay flexible within it. The turtle shell needs to shift as we move around the instrument, and it also needs to rotate as we switch strings. As we move towards the lower strings, the elbow comes a little bit further underneath the instrument, and the turtle shell follows. And as we move to higher strings, the elbow naturally relaxes back. So the shape stays consistent, but it's not frozen. Aside from favoring the 1st finger instead of the 4th, there's another extremely common mistake that will destroy your hand frame and make it almost impossible to play in tune. That mistake is squeezing the instrument between the thumb and the base of the index finger. This habit is incredibly common and very easy to fall into. To be clear, the base of the index finger can touch the neck. The problem is the squeezing that sometimes happens there. We generally squeeze because we think it will help us to put pressure on the finger that's on the string, but what it actually does is squeeze the wood of the neck and also destroys our left hand dexterity. To fix this, the most important prerequisite is being able to support the instrument without relying on the left hand. If you can't do that yet, I strongly recommend watching my video on violin setup and working on that first. If you can already support the instrument, then our job is to train downward pressure into the string without any sideways squeezing. The first exercise I'll show you at the end of this video is the first step toward that. Before we leave the topic of the thumb and index finger, there's an important nuance to address. While it's okay for the base of the index finger to contact the neck, it should never be glued to the side of the instrument. The violin doesn't really punish this habit until you start vibrating or shifting, which is why it often goes unnoticed for a long time. If we catch it early, however, we can avoid fixing much harder habits later. So when playing on the G and the D strings, and also sometimes on the A string, the base of the index finger will likely touch the neck. However, for most hands, especially smaller ones, there needs to be some space between the neck and the base of the index finger on the E string in order to be able to reach back and to play in tune. Without that space, the hand becomes cramped or the wrist starts rolling back to compensate, both of which destroy the hand frame and with it, intonation. When playing on the E string, be especially mindful that the index finger is not only relaxed, but that there is a clear space in between it and the neck. Now that you understand hand frame, let's talk about how to train it. This first exercise is called hand frame tapping. The goal is to find the perfect hand frame for your body and then to train the easiest possible way to lift and drop each finger within that hand frame. Predictably, the exercise starts by favoring the fourth finger. So we find the most relaxed position for our fourth finger and then we vibrate on it. Once we find that position, then we build the other fingers up without moving our original position that we found. We don't want to find the fourth finger and then change the position. So we find the fourth finger, build the fingers up. Now with all four fingers lightly resting on the string, we want to do a little bit of violin yoga. So in this position, we move the thumb back and forth, we move the wrist back and forth, we move the elbow back and forth, and we also just make sure that we're relaxed in the shoulder. For many people, their thumbs end up moving a little bit forward when all four fingers are down compared to what they're used to. Your wrists should be basically neutral, so not jutting out or coming in too much. And the elbow needs to swing around and find the spot where it's easiest. So if it comes too far around, there'll be a strain in your back. If it doesn't come around enough, it'll start being hard for the fourth finger to reach comfortably. Once you've found that perfect spot for your body, we're gonna tap 10 times on each finger, starting with the fourth finger. As you're tapping, we're aiming for it to be as efficient as possible. And this is your moment where you can really hyper-analyze what is the easiest way of lifting and dropping each finger. This might seem anal, but obviously when we're playing the violin, we're gonna be doing a lot of lifting and dropping of the fingers, and it really pays dividends to think deeply about how you're doing it, particularly on the fourth finger. Something that I find very helpful when it comes to tapping my fourth finger is to think about lifting and dropping it from this knuckle and almost having this curved shape stay consistent the whole way through. We want to avoid curling it back excessively and straightening it out. Because when we do that, the pressure when we land on the string is almost sideways. We want instead to have it drop onto the string. That thwack that you're hearing is coming because that finger is falling with a lot of speed, not because I'm pressing hard. The important word for the left hand is elasticity. We're aiming for the finger to be elastic, falling with a lot of speed, ease, and not too much pressure. And then we tap the third finger 10 times while keeping the fourth finger down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Second finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And first finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. After that, we reset and we do the whole exercise again with a slightly different variation. I'll show you when we get there. Thumb, wrist, elbow, shoulder. And then we think about our turtle shell. We're going to take our fingers off and maintain that same shape, and we're going to tap each finger individually without the other fingers down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is a great spot to re-emphasize that idea that we want to be landing with a lot of speed. I want to hear the thwack from the left hand articulation, but I don't want to be pressing overly hard. In the left hand, we always want to be using the least amount of force that's necessary to create a clean cutoff. Then we do the exercise again, leaving the fingers down this time. Thumb, wrist, elbow, shoulder. Fingers stay down. 10 taps on each finger. And then we alternate between leaving the fingers down and lifting the fingers. I like to do 3 repetitions of each of these. 3 times where I leave the fingers down, 3 times where I lift them. So 1 time with the fingers down, 1 time lifted, 1 time down, 1 time lifted, 1 time down, 1 time lifted. I have a follow-along video of this in my Practice with a Pro playlist, so you can get the exact progression in the pacing that I normally do it. After doing this daily for a couple of weeks, you should start to really notice that your hand gets comfortable in this position. Now, if this position is a big change for you, it's completely normal for your intonation to get slightly worse for a week or 2.
Sounds almost
Don't be alarmed. Finding a position you can maintain consistently will pay dividends well worth that short adjustment period. After practicing this exercise reliably for a couple of weeks, your hand will begin to rewire itself into a position that's ideal for your body. Once that feels stable, I would add this second exercise to build speed and dexterity in the new hand frame. It's called hot stove fingers. This exercise is designed to help you develop dexterity within your new hand frame by training you to trill within it. Trill training, in my opinion, is seriously underrated. In earlier generations, players talked about how great someone's trills were, but we don't often hear that as much anymore. Trills, however, were Heifetz's favorite way to warm up, and he was certainly one of the greatest violinists of all time. So here's the exercise. We're going to build the fingers up in a similar way as we did in the last exercise, except this time we're going to practice the speed of 2 different specific motions. The placing quickly of the finger and also the lifting quickly of the finger, which is something that is often missed. On the way up, we're going to try to touch the string for as short a time as possible, as if the fingerboard was a hot stove. As you're doing that, we're aiming to get very clear sound with very little pressure. The speed at which the finger is falling is the important thing, not how hard you're pressing. On the way down, we're going to do just the opposite. So we're going to try to leave the fingerboard for as short a time as possible. By doing this consistently and trying to increase the speed of our fingers lifting and dropping, you will train your hand to move very, very quickly and efficiently. Now we are gradually going to increase the speed and the number of flicks that we have in each bow. At about this point, it becomes a little bit hard to differentiate whether you're placing the fingers quickly or releasing the finger quickly. Just try to trill as cleanly as possible at that speed. Then we go on to a trill. And a fast trill. My goal as I go faster is actually to relax more and more and try to find the most efficient way of making it happen. Getting good at hot stove fingers builds the reflexive lifting and dropping motion you need for fast, controlled playing. These are the 2 exercises I use to begin training hand frame with my students: hand frame tapping, hot stove fingers. I recommend alternating between them daily as part of your warm-up. Hand frame tapping gives you time and space to think critically about efficiency, while hot stove fingers develop speed and dexterity. Now in these exercises, we focused on a single finger pattern, but real music obviously uses many more. To take the next step in your left hand development, check out the next video in the series.